Once the deputies activate their emergency equipment, they go on for a short period of time, and then the driver of the car, as I said, who is Lang, he punches it. And as he's punching it and he takes off, the deputies immediately turn off their overheads. The sergeant got on the radio and told them to disengage, which they did immediately. And you'll see in there in the speeds, because they had their dash cameras on, and you'll see the speeds. One of the deputies gets down to about 35 miles an hour. The other deputy's about 50 miles an hour. And they totally disengage, back off, turn off their emergency equipment. At 5 seconds before the crash with Lang driving, is that Maserati was going 123 miles an hour. So the deputies are slowed down. Again, one got to about 35, the other got to about 50. They're a ways off. They're probably in the area of about 16th Street and 62nd Avenue North, and the car crashes at 10th Street and 62nd Avenue North. So what happens is Lang's driving, again, going very fast, no driver's license, 15-year-old driver, very inexperienced. The car starts fishtailing, and he loses it. And there is no control over the car. And as you'll see, the car goes airborne and basically flips, almost like a can opener is what happens. It goes into a sign and it lands. I'll show you in the video. It was, from the time the deputies disengaged until the time of the crash was 19 seconds. So they're back, but as soon as he punched it, he lost it pretty quick and went airborne and went into the sign. As I told you, when we pulled Lang from the car, he had a glove on his hand. One of the things that we are releasing today for the first time, also in the car, was a .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun. And this handgun did not belong to the owner of the car, and it was not in the car when he parked the car on the night of October 1st into the morning of October 2nd. So that was a gun that these three possessed. We also found, you see there, a picture of the mask that was in Lang's possession. So he had a glove on his hand, he had the mask. That firearm was found on the front seat of the car. We did a trace through ATF of the firearm, and the only record, the last record of that firearm, was it was shipped to Largo Feed and Grain on East Bay Drive in Largo in 1968. That's the last record of it. And so my guess, and this is a guess, and I want to be clear with this is what we see. It's probably been stolen several times, sold on the street several times, and it's what we call a crime gun. So we're going to get back with ATF and try and do some additional ballistics on that gun to see if it's been used in other crimes. But especially a gun that old that's been around for as long as it has, and under these circumstances, it just continually gets sold again and again on the street. That's my best educated hypothesis as to what the deal is with that gun. But it belonged to these kids. It did not belong to the owner. As I mentioned the other night, the same three, Lang, Bonilla, and Daniels, is that back on September 11th at about 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a Kansas City police officer who stopped him down in Kansas City at 47th Street and 61st Avenue North in a residential area, wearing all black. They had their faces covered with hoods or hoodies, and they were acting suspicious. So the only criminal history that any of these kids had was one of the kids was arrested back in June on a disorderly conduct obstructing charge. None of them had any criminal histories, but what appears clear is that these kids were out doing a whole bunch of bad things. They just hadn't been caught. And the parents were trying. They realized that these kids were going down the bad path. One of them had recently moved from St. Pete High over to Northeast High. The parents went to bed. The kids were in their rooms where they should have been. They snuck out in the middle of the night, and it's a very tragic situation. So I think what I'm going to do now is play the video for you. And the first video is just the helicopter video. You'll hear the radio traffic. You'll hear the pilots calling it out. You'll hear the ground units. And then the second part of it is we incorporate the deputy's dash cam video, and that's the primary part of the screen. And then you'll see a window down in the lower right-hand corner that has the helicopter video. So you'll see everything as it's occurring with the dash camera and with the helicopter video. So we'll go ahead and play that, and then I'll update you a little bit on the condition of the two kids who are not deceased, and then take any questions that you have. So go ahead, Amanda. the shorts is the driver.
Okay, we've got some detained, it's probably gonna be our subject. Hey, copy. All primary 14 take our witness over. 14 copy, you know the charge? Chapter 19, if you want to charge. Who's gonna have black, bottles or like sweat that bottles for a shirt? I got it, we got one of
Eagle, the two that I was watching met up with a third, and I'm pretty sure they're just breaking into an unlocked car here. 62nd, just west of Orange Street.
And I'm moving up to a point, trying to find our street on that now.
Orange, 25th Street, just west of 25th Street. It's on the south side of the road, 62nd. And they all three got in the car. They covered their hands with their sweatshirts, so I'm pretty sure they just broke into it.
Search on it for them.
K9, are you deploying on this Richmond 21, or do you want to head over here?
I'll come over to that new spot, it sounds like I got a guy for this one.
All right, 62nd Ave, south side of the road, just before 25th Street. I think it's 2604, 62nd Ave.
Okay, sure, you got me, you on it,
All
brother.
right, the car's moving now.
Keep going,
They're driving across the line, it's about the 62nd Ave.
62 and, Orange Street now.
All right, they're eastbound, just past 25th Street. Underneath the interstate, and car's blacked out. Approaching 22nd Street.
Still like that?
Yeah, still blacked out. Eastbound, number 1 lane, driving normal, coming up to 21st Street.
I think it's behind him.
Eagle, yeah, you're behind them.
Straight.
Alright, I've got it. I can call it eastbound 62nd, just past an 18th.
Cruiser's back on. They're loading in front.
East Highway. And he's still blacked out, passing 12th Street, LL Bravo, see if we can get some of these. Oh, he's gonna lose it right here. He crashed. He's crashing, 62nd, and it's gonna be just shy of 10th Street on the south side of the road. high rate. He's still blacked out, past 12th Street, Hillrock Bravo, so we can get some of these. No, he's gonna lose it right here. He's crashing, 62nd, and it's gonna be just shy of 10th Street on the South Park Road. Okay, get you over here, Don. Get to the scene, everyone else. We'll go and get out of the car, and we go, let's get that roll, bring that crash.
All right, so we'll make copies of all of that video available to you. Again, summing it up, they got in the car, they fled, blacked out, going normal speed, cruisers get behind them, they punched it, deputies back off. Deputies got down to, again, 30 miles an hour on one, probably 45, 50 on the other. They weren't in sight. You can see how far back the deputies were. Unfortunately, he was going, and we know this from the data recorder in the Maserati, that 5 seconds before the crash, he was doing 123 miles an hour, lost it, went airborne, hit the sign, and, a tragic outcome. So as far as the situation, we know that Bonilla is deceased. We know that Kendrick Lang, who is the driver, is in very critical condition, still in the hospital. I told you the other morning that really didn't think, based on the information from the hospital, that he was going to make it. There's a chance now that he may make it. They're doing multiple surgeries on him, so he may make it. And Malachi Daniels is still in the hospital, but his injuries are not life-threatening. We're still considering the criminal charges. I want to see what happens with Lang, see if he lives, and we'll look at criminal charges. Everything's on the table. Of course, grand theft of the vehicle. Lang faces what's called third-degree felony murder charges because somebody else died while he was in the commission of a felony. So he could be charged with third-degree felony murder. And as far as Daniels is concerned, there's options there for criminal charges. Right now, we've been focused on the crash investigation. Obviously, one of the kids sadly is deceased. The other two are in the hospital, so there's no urgency as far as making that decision about the charges. But we're talking about it and considering it. Anybody have any questions?
You heard on the video there the chopper pilot say back off. Can you explain why you guys have a policy not to pursue vehicles when they are reaching high speeds?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I mean, just so we're clear, it was actually the sergeant who told him to back off, so it wasn't the pilot, but same difference, your point is the same, is that we probably have one of the most, and I don't know about the most, but certainly one of the most restrictive pursuit policies in the state of Florida. We went many, many years ago to having many pursuits a year down to a few and a handful. Pursuits are dangerous. We're going to reserve them for those most needed situations where they're justified under the circumstances. And we don't pursue for stolen cars. We don't pursue for property crime. We pursue when somebody is engaged in the type of felony, a violent felony, a robbery, a homicide, a rape, those things where somebody needs to be taken into custody, or when they're driving, regardless of what we did, when they are engaging in very serious, dangerous driving that affects public safety. Other than that, we don't pursue because it's not worth it. Somebody's life is not worth property. And that's my view on it, and especially when it's property that people don't care about. Is remember, in this case, the reason why these kids were able to steal that car is because the owner of the car parked it, he left the car unlocked, and he left the keys in his car. So why would we put our people at risk and put the public at risk to try and get back something that somebody else doesn't even care about? So that's my view of it. And people, you can leave your cars unlocked and you leave your keys in the car if you want. And certainly, you can make the case is the problem is these kids stealing other people's stuff, and it's not the person who leaves their car unlocked and leaves the keys in the car. That's, that's the way it is. But we're not going to pursue for that kind of stuff because it's just simply too dangerous. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to do our job, and we are. And we're going to try and do what they did here, which is try and stop the car, try to get the people into custody. But these kids fled, and the deputies weren't chasing them. And we have a very restrictive chase policy regarding property crime and any traffic offenses. Again, unless it is a very serious violent felony, or the person is acting in such a dangerous way that they have to be stopped or they'll hurt somebody else, those are the only times we chase. And we have a few pursuits a year.
Sheriff, how many miles did these teens actually travel from when they got the car until they crashed? How many minutes were they actually in that vehicle?
Well, you saw it. I mean, let it speak for itself. You know, it's from 28th Street and 62nd Avenue North to 10th Street and 62nd Avenue North. So distance-wise, I didn't calculate that out, but, you know, mile and a half, maybe, you know, something like that. You know, time-wise, it speaks for itself on the video.
Can you talk a little bit more about the gun and just the fact that 1960 to 70 years,
Yeah.
what does it mean to be able to get a weapon like that off the streets, and how many people do you think could have had their hands on it?
Well, there's tons of them out there like that. I mean, these are crime guns, and this is what happens all the time. I mean, they're out there all over the place, and we run into these where people are selling guns on the street. A gun on the street like that, somebody's probably sold it 100 times for $50, $100. They just keep passing it around. Now, it's possible that they could have stolen it out of somebody else's car, but you know, just from the looks of it, the type of gun that it is, you know, again, and because the only history of it was from 1968, this has probably just been passed around in crime circles for a very long time and being sold very cheaply. I mean, it's a 25 caliber, it's not a 9mm, it's not a 45, it's not a 380, it's a 25, which is a very small caliber gun. But it'll kill you, make no mistake about that. And they use it in a robbery or whatever else they're using it for. But it's a bad situation when you got two 15-year-olds and a 16-year-old that are out with masks, with gloves, with a gun that are up to no good in the middle of the night. All those are ingredients for bad stuff.
Is it hard to say who may have owned that, or what one of the kids had that, or is that?
You know, you saw the crash. You know, you saw how that car got tossed around and really got almost bent in the middle by the pole, like a tin can got crushed in the middle of it. So it's virtually impossible. Now we're processing it for DNA and for fingerprints. So we'll see, you know, if we get anything back off of that. But right now, we did find it in the front seat, but just because we found it in the front seat, you know, the way that car went around, I can't tell you.
Would you say that this incident speaks to a larger issue maybe in the county in terms of cars being stolen? But more importantly, you guys over and over again telling people to lock your doors, look for keys, and that type of thing.
All the time. I mean, you want the history on this and you want a very well-written, laid-out history of it, go read the Tampa Bay Times article from a few years ago. I mean, it tells you exactly what the problem is, and it tells you what we face and what we've seen with kids in this county, you know, for a very long time. It isn't just this county. I mean, we seem to have a lot of it here for whatever reason, but it also occurs throughout the state where you got these young kids in the 13, 14, 15, 16 age range that go out in the middle of the night and are looking for the opportunity, because these are crimes of opportunity where you have unlocked doors and you have keys in cars, you have guns in cars, whatever property, and they're just looking to take the cars, break into the cars. Very rarely do we find forced entry. Is that if the cars are locked, they're not going into them, but so many cars are unlocked and people leave so much stuff in these cars, from guns to jewelry to money to you name it, and they're just out there in the middle of the night taking it. And this is the big problem, is when they actually steal the car. So, you know, we saw years ago now, we saw the infamous 3 girls in a pond case. We had the one up at Tampa Road 19 a couple years ago where they're going fast through Tampa 19 and run into the pole. You know, now we've got this one, and it's a problem. It really is. Now, auto thefts are down from what they were, but it doesn't mean that the problem has gone away, as we see here. Of course, it's still a problem and an issue, and it's these young people that are doing it in the middle of the night, and this is the result when they do that.
The message that you would send, I guess, to the community regarding cases like this and trying to prevent them?
Well, the message to the community, you know, look, is that, you know, I would really like people to decrease the opportunity for these kids to do bad things. And the way that we can mitigate that is to ask people to lock their car doors and don't leave your keys in the car. But, you know, again, I want to be clear with this. The problem is not that. The problem is these kids are out there. There's a solution to this problem. Don't steal people's stuff. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is that, you know, if you want to, you know, leave your bicycle on the front porch and somebody steals it, well, you're not going to have a horrific situation like this. But when you leave your car in your driveway, in the front yard, or on the street, or wherever it is, and you leave the keys in it, and you got these kids that are out there stealing your stuff, these kids are going to do bad things, and then really bad things are going to happen to the kids. This is happening all the time. Thank goodness that we don't have a situation where they crash all the time and that are seriously hurt or killed. But these situations with these kids that are stealing these cars it's an all the time thing.
Did the parents by any chance know anything about the gun at all? Did they know maybe?
No, these parents, and again, this is, you got to take each situation on its own. And every situation's different. This situation's very different from the last two, the Tampa Road in 19 and the 3 girls in a pond. Is those kids had extensive criminal histories. The parents were not involved. There were just bad circumstances and situations there that led up to that happening. This is very different, is that from everything we can tell so far in the investigation, is these parents were trying to do the right thing. They realized they had some issues. These kids were, again, 15 and 16-year-olds, you have problems. They're trying to mitigate it by switching schools. They're making sure that they're home. The parents thought that the kids were at home and in their rooms asleep because that's where they left them. One of the kids shared a room with a younger sibling. He didn't even know he snuck out. So this is not that situation of the other cases where you've got absentee parents and people are asking the question rightfully so, where are the parents? What are they doing? Why isn't there accountability? These parents, by all accounts, were really trying, and these kids were going around that and thwarting the parents' efforts to keep these kids on the right track. And they were hell-bent on going out and wreaking havoc, and havoc happened, sadly.
Now, Sheriff, if both of these teens do survive, the ones that are at the hospital, what charges then do they face?
Well, as far as Kendrick Lang's concerned, he got in the car and drove it away and stole the car. So certainly grand theft auto, you have aggravated fleeing and eluding, a number of traffic charges, and potentially, because somebody died while he was in the commission of a felony, he could face third-degree felony murder charges. As far as Malachi Daniels is concerned, it could be a grand theft auto, it could be some other charges. We need to look at it. But you asked me what are the potential charges? Those are the potential charges. But the investigation's ongoing. We'll look at it. We'll talk to the state attorney's office. Look, in these things, I don't know that we are going to ever be able to do anything more to punish these kids. And obviously with Mario Bonilla, that doesn't get any sadder than that. You got a 15-year-old who lost his life. I mean, and I saw him out there. I mean, he probably weighed 75 pounds. I mean, he's a boy. He's a young kid. Okay, but they made their own decisions. They're the ones that created this. They're the ones that caused it, nobody else. Not the guy that owns the Maserati, not their parents, not anybody else. These kids made bad choices. And in the case of Bonilla, it's a fatal choice. And in the case of Kendrick Lang, is that while he's in bad shape in the hospital, if he does survive, he also caused the death of somebody else. So, there may well need to be accountability there for that. And at 15 years old, if you get charged with third-degree felony murder, so be it, because he's the one that decided to drive that fast. And you saw when he started out, he wasn't driving that fast. He's the one that decided to punch it. He's the one that decided to go 123 miles an hour. He's the one that allowed that car to go airborne and do what it did, crash into that pole and kill his buddy.
Any alcohol or drugs or need to be involved?
We don't know. We have to wait for toxicology on it. We don't have any indication of that right now.
And then, did you say what hospital Lang and Daniels are in?
Bayfront, all children's.
Both of them?
One's in one, one's in the other.
And Daniels sounds like he's doing much better than what he is.
Yeah, so Malachi Daniels is, by all accounts, is in stable condition, and he is going to survive. As far as Kendrick Lang is concerned, again, still very critical condition, and he is undergoing surgeries.
Can you describe a little bit about what deputies noticed? Obviously, the chopper was up for an unrelated call, but what they noticed that really made them start paying attention?
Well, I mean, I would say to you, just the fact that you got 3 young males walking on 62nd Avenue at 3:30 in the morning is suspicious enough. But some of the things you saw, they did see them earlier, and they were walking around. It's how they were walking. They were walking around cars. They were walking up and down. They were actually separated because they were watching them for probably 10 or 15 minutes before. And so two of them were together, then the other one showed up, and just their actions, it was a totality of circumstances. But I think that most people would say just the fact that you got three young kids out on 62nd Avenue North at 3:30 in the morning is enough for any cop to stop and say, hey, what's going on? Just like the Kansas City officer did back on September 11th at 4 o'clock in the morning when they're walking down the street. And remember, these guys are all dressed in black. They're all dressed in dark clothes. Now, the one kid Lang did have shorts on, but they're all dressed in black. So that in and of itself is reason to stop them and figure out what's going on. And obviously, what the pilot saw up there and the deputies in the helicopter saw, they were right. Because they're flying high enough up that these guys didn't even know they were there.
Is that the moment that we see in the video, them, I guess one of them or both of them meeting all up together? Is that what we see in the video? Because I heard the pilot say,
Yeah.
it looks like they came together now.
Right, yeah. So before that is the two of them were walking together. We know that Keandrick Lang, who's wearing the shorts, he was with one of the other two, and then the other one showed up. But which one the other two was, we don't know. There's no way to know that.
Is that a routine chopper flight on a Sunday night?
We run helicopters 7 days a week. Helicopters up all the time, on routine patrol. Yep.
Were these kids spending the night at each other's homes and then all snuck out, or did they meet up somewhere?
They're at their individual homes, and then they must have met up. So no, they were all at home. Like I said, the parents said that when they last saw their kids, is that they were at home. A couple of them said they were actually in bed. They wanted to make sure they went to their rooms and were in bed. So they were parenting. They were doing the right things, and obviously the kids snuck out.
Because you've done this for so long, and I know you've seen several situations, seeing something like this, how does that make you feel when you're talking about kids that are so young and it ends in a deadly situation?
Like everybody else, it's sad, it's tragic. But I go back to is that these kids made the decision to do this. And, it's terrible. And there's no other way around it, but it's their decision. They're the ones that caused this. They're the ones that are at fault for it. They're the ones that made the bad choices. And they knew what they were doing. And again, this is no accident. I mean, look at all this. You got these kids, they're stopped before in dark clothing. They got a gun, they got gloves on, they got face masks. So this wasn't just some casual, hey, we're walking down the street and, I always see this car and do it. They're out there deliberately to steal and to wreak havoc and you got 15 and 16-year-olds walking around with a gun, a mask, and gloves at 3:30 in the morning. They own this. They're responsible for it.
Sheriff, you mentioned that auto thefts have been down. What factors do you think have contributed to that? Sort of what steps has law enforcement taken in recent years to address the issue?
I think it's a combination of things. One of it is that the patrols that we've done, the efforts of law enforcement. I hope, although there's really no way to tell, that more people are locking their car doors. I can tell you that we do have the deputies go out into the neighborhoods at night. We've done this for years, so that we'll go out and check and see if car doors are locked. And we call it a vehicle burglary prevention program, where we get the deputies out and we'll try those door handles, and if the door handle is open, we lock it and put a card on the front seat that says, please lock your car. So, that's something that we've done for years. There's been some changes within the juvenile justice system where kids are able to be held now as opposed to the revolving door. So I think you see changes in law, changes in how we police, efforts to curtail this. I think it's a combination of things, and like most, it's not any one thing, but they are down.
Any possible charges for the parents?
No. Were you not listening? The parents didn't do anything wrong. I mean, none of these parents, and you want to ask me about the girls in the pond case, you want to ask me about the Tampa Road 19th case, these parents, by all accounts, these parents were doing everything parents should do. They put their kids to bed. They were supposed to be in their rooms, and one of them had a sibling in there. They snuck out. How are you going to get charges on parents for that? That's not this case. These parents didn't do anything wrong.
Have you spoken to the owner of the Maserati? Did he say, when did he realize his car was stolen?
When a deputy went down the street and got him and said, you want to come look at your car? So, because we went back and got him. he was home. All right, thanks, everybody.